Pakistan. I'll have the front pages of the newspapers for you after a rundown of what else is happening. Here's Charlotte with that.
Thanks, Eamon. Good morning. And as the government deals with the floods at home, Pakistan's president will arrive in Britain later today. And there's been widespread anger in Pakistan over comments made by David Cameron last week over the country's commitment to tackling terrorism. Ahead of the visit, Pakistan's High Commissioner to Britain has told Sky News the Prime Minister's comments were baseless. Mark Stone has this report.
We cannot tolerate
Gaza.
Now, what you're about to see might seem like a scene from Jaws, but beachgoers in New Jersey were left running for safety when a shark swam ashore. It was thought to be chasing after a fish caught on a fisherman's line when it brought Seaside Park to a bit of a standstill. It did eventually change its mind, however, and decide that perhaps it was a little bit too noisy on that beach with
See, whoever took that film, they remind me of me, that when you take holiday video, you think you're brilliant. You do think you're Steven Spielberg.
You don't actually realise how close you are to that shark.
No, you actually realise how much of the action you actually missed. Really. Oh, there it is. It's had enough. It's going.
Yeah, he's off again now, you see. Didn't like the look of anyone on shore. Actually, he might not be as big as you think he is, because you can't see him next to anybody, can you?
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Just a thought.
Yeah, just a thought. You cynic, you. Thank you, Charlotte. Front pages of the papers. Daily Telegraph, first of all.
August on Sky Arts 1 HD.
Hello there. Tuesday morning, Sky News Sunrise. Eamon and Charlotte here. Darren Lewis on the papers. Going to hear what he has to say in just over 5 minutes' time. It's breaking news that leads for us this.
Amy Lewis, Sky News.
Let's get a rundown now of what else is happening. And when Darren Lewis comes back, he's got his view on whether the Pakistan president should be in Britain or at home tending to those in need with those floods. Here is Charlotte.
Thanks, Eamon. So as the government deals with those floods at home, Pakistan's president arrives in Britain later today. And there's been widespread anger in Pakistan over comments made by David. Very sweet. Now, dramatic footage has emerged of 4 volunteers who managed to escape a massive forest fire in Russia while they were trying to help others. As the men were returning from delivering water and spades to a local village, they found that the flames had rapidly spread through the forest surrounding their vehicle. And to escape the flames, they had to drive through this, a wall of fire. Wildfires have now killed 40 people in western Russia and also destroyed thousands of homes.
I noticed there was a lot of bleeps during that bit of footage there, and not surprisingly.
I imagine it was a rather hair-raising experience.
Yes. Going through a wall of fire is fine, as long as you know there's something at the other side of it.
Or lots of people dousing it from either end,
yeah.
Hair-raising, I'm not sure. I don't know anything about that.
No.
Maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked. I doubt it somehow. Melted tyres or whatever. Darren Lewis here from the Daily Mirror, and he's going through the papers for this morning. Good to see you, Darren.
You too.
And this whole controversy about the Pakistani president coming to Britain, do you feel that he should be still at home?
I think so. The worst humanitarian disaster for 80 years, worst flooding that Pakistan has experienced for that length of time. Let me just show you 2 papers. The first is the Mail. Should he be here in England for a terror showdown with David Cameron? He's angry, obviously, at Cameron's comments last week that Pakistan have been looking the other way, quote unquote, on terror. Or should he be here? Here's the front of the Independent, which has a picture of a man carrying his belongings through, as we've said before, some of the worst flooding that the country has experienced for 80 years, nearly a century. And my view is indeed that he should be there. Lots of people criticising the Pakistani government for their lack of leadership, for lack of organisation. There is a view that the president is here in England because his son, Bilawal, who's 21, he wants him to succeed him. And the MP for Birmingham and Perry Barr, Khalid Mahmood, saying today in many of the papers that Al-Zardari wants his son to succeed him and wants to speak at a rally in Birmingham on Saturday in order to drum up support among British Pakistanis so that he can curry favour with them over the next sort of 4 or 5 years. I'm sure he'll have something to say about that as the day wears on. But definitely, my view is that he should be there to take control over what is a terrible crime. We saw the stats in Amy Lewis's report: 1,400 people affected, 1,000 people feared dead, a million other people affected. All sorts of stats in today's papers about gastroenteritis, diarrhea, the various diseases, and just the various ways that in which people are being affected out there. And you do feel that, you know, in order to coordinate the efforts out there, President Zari should be in Pakistan.
OK, what do you think? That's what Darren thinks. News at sky.com. Please do let us know this morning. We move on now, and this is The Guardian, and this is about a family who lived in Sandbanks, who do live in Sandbanks in Poole, and they want to send their child to a certain school, and the council, to find out whether they were in the right catchment area or not, or if they were telling the truth, they sent out all sorts of covert filming and spies around them.
Indeed. You would never think by looking at this report, and again, I've chosen The Guardian, but it's in all the papers today, that we're talking about a middle-class family. You'd think that they were talking about terrorists.
Well, the practice goes on, but one wonders, why didn't they just go up and ring the bell and check that the family lived where they said they lived?
Absolutely.
Sort of, without all this nonsense.
They had a guy sitting in a car outside the house for, I think, something like 90 days, and the council claimed that they were using the powers of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers, REPA, which was introduced in 2000 to give police, security services and HM Revenue and Customs powers to watch people for the purposes of fighting crime and terrorism. In other words, they were treating them like criminals. And it turned out that their investigation was unjustified, that the family were acting lawfully. They apologised, but the family had to go through an awful lot in order to get that apology. And you just wonder how many other people have been treated in a similar way.
The violation is terrible, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Really
and
is.
with 3 children under 3 myself, you know, and I, you know, obviously will be looking at schools over the next 2 years or so. I have a lot of sympathy with this family, and I think they were absolutely right to pursue the council and to force them to actually apologise.
In your own case, those 3 children under 3, have you found out what's causing that yet?
That's probably for a later show. That's for a late paper review.
OK, 2 funerals you're going to feature now, first of all.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, Alex Higgins in Belfast.
Well, as a Belfast boy yourself, you'll know all about the impact that Alex Higgins made on the community. And the depth of feeling that there was yesterday for one of the country's favourite sons. The Dean of Belfast, the Very Reverend Dr. Houston McKelvey, was actually speaking yesterday about Higgins and described him as Belfast's prodigal son. Now, I cover the sport of snooker for the Daily Mirror myself, and I have to say I'm disappointed not to have ever covered Alex Higgins during his time playing, because colour television and Alex Higgins, the 2 biggest things to revolutionise the sport. Many people who will have watched Sky News' coverage of the funeral yesterday will have seen people speaking about the fact that they turned on because it was him. They liked his style, they liked his flamboyancy, they liked the fact that it was a bad boy.
A lot of people turned off snooker because it was him as well. You know, off the table. I mean, on the table, definitely exploits. Off the table, a lot of people didn't really like to come into contact with Alex.
Yes, and the players themselves had their own experiences of him. Tournament officials who he had confrontations with, and I'm being diplomatic. I'm sure Colin Randall, who he punched in I think it was 1986, might have something to say as well. But despite everything,
it's all forgiven.
It's all forgiven. He's so warmly and well regarded. And just the last line on that, already they're talking about making a film about his life.
Yes,
so that'd be very interesting indeed.
That. And the other, this is the same. Is this?
Well, no, from one funeral to another, because in the Daily Mirror, this family, pictured on here, Teresa Beitram is her name, and these are her 3 sons. They've travelled 276 miles to the funeral of Raoul Moat. Now, they didn't know him. They didn't know him. And that is the bizarre thing about this. His funeral yesterday attracted, they are one of dozens of, as the papers describe them, ghouls who came to the funeral of a man they didn't know. All sorts of unsavoury tributes as well, be it that this family are putting forward.
Yes, this man seems to be being made into some sort of hero.
I'd say it's a spectacularly damning indictment of our society when you've got a situation like that.
Milk. and cloned cows. Charlotte, do you like a glass of milk?
I do like a glass of milk. Do you know what? I had to go and get some milk from the supermarket yesterday, and I paused because I was thinking, how do I know which could be
Well,
the cloned milk?
Well,
So you'd be worried about a glass of cloned milk?
Well, I went for the organic milk because I was hoping that, you know, with all things considered, that was probably the least likely.
Darren, what do you think?
well, this Professor Robin Lovell Badge in The Sun says he would drink cow's milk. I'm not sure I'm not sure I would. They've got a cow on the right-hand side saying this stuff's all white. But I'm not sure I would. The problem is, how do you know? You said you chose organic milk. How do you know?
You
How
don't
do
know,
you don't know.
I'd
And this
rather
is
not drink it, and I'd rather have the choice. I'd rather that they said, OK, this is the clone milk. If you want to drink it, you can drink it.
Absolutely.
Should be like me, don't drink milk. Yeah, ever since primary school when they put it on the radiators and we got it free and it all was curdled and horrible kids used to blow into it. It was so disgusting anyway. Me and milk. Anyway, cloned or not. Sky News Sunrise, Darren's back in an hour's time after the break saying farewell.